everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Divine Diva, where my diva for today is Jessica. So, welcome, Jessica.
Hi, it is so wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And I would love for you to introduce yourself, tell us a bit about what you do and who you are, really.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Jessica Verrill. I have a few different branches of what I do. At the core of everything, I am really bringing soul into the physical.
Mm,
So I do that through publishing and strategic visioning of books. I also do that through my energetic work and helping women who are at these transitionary periods. So, spiritual awakenings, grief, midlife wake ups, like those sorts of things, and helping them get to the next level. So,
mm,
I utilize my visioning, my intuition, and really feel myself as a bridge between what we can't always see and the physical world, utilizing things like flower essences and
mm,
that as well to
mm,
really help people feel their best that they can.
mm. It sounds amazing. I already want to say thank you for all that amazing work that you do.
Oh, oh, thank you.
I would love to know, in your view, what qualities does a divine diva have?
Does a what?
Does a divine diva have?
A defined diva? Well, um, it's really to me is really being who you are.
Mhm.
And sometimes I feel like, especially as women, we are so we are so programmed and we become people pleasers. We put on these masks. We do all of these things for other people, and we truly forget who it is that we are at our core, or the true magic of ourselves and what we came here to do. And so for me, it's really this remembrance and claiming of that energy, whether it's who you are. It's not
Mhm.
even necessarily what you do, it's who you are. It's the essence that you have, and allowing that to be a part of your interactions in every single
Mm.
element of life.
And how can we start to pull back the layers of all that programming?
Yeah, yeah, that can be tricky, and it
Mhm.
can take a little bit, but it doesn't have to be. So oftentimes we get in these what I look as loops or healing loops of thinking like, oh, I need to pick this apart, I need to pick this apart, I need to pick this apart. And we are, so much of our culture, I really feel like is infatuated for looking at what is wrong. We're
Mhm.
programmed for that. What is wrong and what do I need to do to fix? And we put so much energy into that. But when we can start to recognize ourselves as really part of like this beautiful creation and a representation of whether you call it God, spirit, universe, divine, whatever you want to call it, as a representation of that, we are worthy and we're beautiful just because we are,
Mhm.
and when we begin to look at that and start putting our energy more into looking at I'm I'm designed this way. And so often what we've been told our whole life, we're too opinionated, too loud, too this, too that. Those are often our biggest gifts.
Mhm.
And it's recognize these things and starting to love and accept ourselves, I think is the most important thing. And that doesn't ever mean that we're not going to have work to do or we're not going to have things that we need to heal or look at, but it's a different perspective instead of like picking and just
Right.
constantly like, what's next? What do I have to pick at? It's being like, oh, okay, well, I'm aware of that. And does that still fit? Or do I want to overcome that? It's a
Mm.
much different energy. So I, easier said than done,
Mhm.
but um really starting to connect back in with our hearts
Mhm.
and who we are and what were the things that brought us joy when we were younger? What are the things that light that little spark?
Mhm.
And doing what we can to hone that.
Mm. Yeah, I remember it was quite a journey for me as well, because what helped me was really to question my limiting beliefs, because they were like a broken record in my mind. But it was like, are they actually true? So I started to actually do the very thing that my limiting belief was actually telling me I shouldn't.
Yes.
So I was doing the opposing thing, like proving that they were actually not mine and that they were wrong. And I think that can help when you go against what your mind is constantly telling you. Like, okay, is this really true? Because to give an example, I was at school when we did like physical things, or we would work out, or do games, and I was always quite slow and I wasn't really good at it. So I always told myself, okay, I'm physically weak. And then I started to go to the gym and take dance classes, and they were all very intense. And I actually gained muscle strength. I gained like a few kilo in muscle actually. And I was like, I'm actually not weak at all.
Yes.
And that can be a very empowering thing to do, to actually question those
Yeah.
limiting beliefs. But as you said, it's quite a process, and you have to be mentally ready to
Yes.
actually go through this. And I think shadow work is also a very important part of that, like digging deeper to uncover those layers. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love how you exemplified, doing that through dance and all of
Mm,
that. But yeah, absolutely. Looking at these parts of ourselves so often we've pushed away or we think of as bad or not part of us, and like really looking at them. And um I have more of the philosophy of embracing them
mhm,
and integrating them with us so that we can, because we can't, we have these and so often, as I said, it's these elements that we think that are wrong or have been misconstrued or pushed away for whatever reason. And so often there's so much power and so many gifts in those, and when
mhm,
we can reclaim that
mm,
and have it as part of our balance, like I'm not saying let your shadow like totally run the show,
yes.
but when we work with it in balance, we are able to be more full in the expression of who we are.
Mhm. And that's exactly where we want to be,
Yes.
in our most
Yes,
authentic self. Yeah.
absolutely. Because we all come in with different gifts and different skills and different messages, and we're all honing those through our experiences of our lifetime. And you and I could be talking about the same exact thing, but the way you say it might really resonate for someone, and that might be exactly what they needed.
Mhm,
And the way I do it might be for somebody else. And
mhm,
so
yeah.
it's remembering that and allowing that to guide us. Yeah.
Mm. And of course, everything is energy. So the way I speak holds a different energy than the way you speak, even if it's both at like this high energy or high frequency. It
Yeah.
can, like I always say, it lands within you, maybe in a different spot, different place, and it
Yes.
lands where it's needed.
Yes.
Mm.
Absolutely.
And from what I understand, you're also a psychic medium, right?
Yes. I have many tools in my tool belt that I utilize in my work.
Mm.
I am very connected. I'm not like someone who's going to be like, I do have people occasionally who will ask me to tune in to, one of their guides or deceased loved ones. And at times that feels appropriate, but it's not something where I'm like, that's all I'm doing.
Mm.
It's more of an integration and everything else that I'm doing. But
Yeah,
it's a
it's not like an on and off switch that you can just turn on and say like, oh yes, I'm channeling now, and it's
yeah.
not like that, of course.
I utilize it as maybe an ingredient in the
Right.
stew of what of what I
Mm.
do. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it really helps it. Yeah.
Mm. And do you also receive some like divine downloads? And if so, what are some that has expanded you the most?
Oh gosh, I can't even the ideas and the downloads and the things that come through me are it's I can't even keep up with them.
Mhm.
So it's I have to, and I'm actually in a season where I've asked them, okay, let's slow down. I need to focus on being on Earth right now because I think that can be a tendency too. You know, when
Yeah.
you are able to connect with um, so much beyond us and so much in the universe that you can spend so much of your energy being out here. And
Right.
it's no, my soul came here to be in this body. And yes, this is helpful, but I need to focus on being here.
Hmm.
Or otherwise, everything that you're giving me isn't going to help. So,
Yeah.
um, yes, it inspires everything. I utilize it in my offerings, with my one-to-one clients. Whether I'm doing intuitive coaching or whether we're working on a book or I'm doing strategy or any of that, it really helps me bring in the different components of
Mhm.
of where we're going and what is being inspired.
Hmm. And as you said, it's easy to get like almost a bit stuck in the 5D, but of course you need time and energy to ground those downloads and ideas into the 3D, into your physical. So do you have like a ritual for that, or does it just happen naturally? How does that work for you?
Yeah, so you know, there are so many things that we do in our day-to-day life that we look at like mundane, but really are ritualistic aspects. So a big thing that I do is I walk every day. I feel my best when I'm outside and I'm in nature and I'm walking. Walking, gardening, being in nature. As I said, I work with flower essences. I also work with herbs and, plant communication and things of that nature. So really connecting into my body
Mm-hmm.
and being here. Um, is something that's just incredibly helpful. And then truly, if I find myself floating out there too much or disconnecting from my body or just being in like la la land because it can be fun. I have to ask, okay, I need to close this down or I need to shrink this up to like 25% or I'm
Right,
available. It's all about boundaries. I'm
right.
available to do this when I'm with clients or I'm available when I'm working. But
Mm.
besides that, I need to be here,
Yeah.
and having those very strict um, components around it is what helps me.
So you create energetic boundaries for yourself as well?
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Energetic boundaries are huge. One of the one of the things that comes up a lot and that I've studied in a lot of my because my background is in wellness and energetics and um, is doing what is called like compassionate depossession and removal of energies. And when you're like psychic medium and when you're doing that work, you can be anywhere and you're just feeling like the tug.
Mm.
And so it has been incredibly important. And I recommend this to all of my clients, like have it be like when I'm in this space, then I'm open for that.
Mhm.
Otherwise, there's a couple of things that's happening. It can make you feel like you're going crazy. It can just be like so much mentally. But when we're thinking about our energy and our energetic systems being pinged by all of these things, like if we're constantly like, hey, there's this, hey, there's that, this person needs you, this energy is coming in, this thing wants your attention, you're just like, you're leaking. You're
Mhm.
leaking all of your energy. And then what happens, we see so many people who have these incredible gifts and they're so skilled, but they're not able to have their needs met on the earth.
Mm.
And I think this is a big part of that is we're leaking so much of our energy into doing all of these other things all of the time. So unless we have those very stringent, firm boundaries of this is what I'm doing and this is when I'm doing it,
Mm-hmm.
then we're constantly going to be giving that away. And
Mm.
when we're giving that away, we don't have what we need to tend to, okay, well, I do have to make money because I have bills to pay and I want to live a beautiful life and I want to help others, and I have family and all of that. And it can really be a lot. So that's something I'm very big on is energetic boundaries and energetic hygiene. Like,
Mm.
who are you speaking with? Who are you working with? Who are you communicating with? Just because you can channel or you're getting information doesn't mean it's for your highest good. And it
Mm.
doesn't mean that it's for your client's highest
It
good.
doesn't mean you have to do it for everyone.
Yes. And that too.
Mm. And also, when you're constantly like energetically open, you're very susceptible to energy vampires and people taking
Yes.
advantage of your energy.
100%.
Mm.
Absolutely.
So, all about boundaries, energetic and otherwise.
Yeah, and it's not in a scary way. Like,
Mhm.
yes, there are energies out there that aren't necessarily for our highest good, and they can feel really gross and they can thwart our lives. But if we're in fear, we're just feeding that more anyways. So
Right.
it's not from that energy. It's just kind of like, no, I'm not
Yeah.
available for that.
It's a self-love and self-compassion act, really.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I would like to quote you right now because, as I said, I did my research. You mentioned that grief doesn't just live in your body, but also in your heart and your nervous system and your fields. So, how can we like peel back those layers again and heal grief on all levels?
Yeah. Um, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
This
that's a big one.
this is a big one.
Mhm.
Um, and there are so many components of it, right? I'm in the midst of this myself.
Mm. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, thank you. Um,
And if you don't feel comfortable answering, really, you don't have to.
it's incredibly important, and it's been so much of what I've been talking about lately as I've been going through it because I see
Mm.
so many people um, who are suffering more than they need to. Like
Mm.
pain is inevitable in our lives. Like we're going to have pain, but I
Mm.
really feel like we have a choice whether we're going to suffer or not. And there's
Mm.
a distinction between pain and suffering.
Right.
And so, the walks, as I said, that's been a really, really important for me. And I'm about like 5 months into the passing of my brother.
Mm.
Um, and so walks, nervous system support, really listening to your nervous system.
Mm.
And a lot of people don't know what that means. But so when you think of like my nerves are shot, or I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling like wired but tired, or I'm feeling all of these things, those are components of your nervous system. So
Mm.
finding things that are going to support you. There are some really great supplements that I love and swear by, as well as herbals. You need to make sure that there's no contraindications and that you don't have any medications or anything that can't be taken with it. But there are certain ones like saffron that can be really, really great at helping your mood. L-theanine is another supplement that I love that is really good for your stress response.
Mm.
Adaptogens like ashwagandha, passion flower extract is one of my favorites at night. But again, this isn't a substitute for medical care.
Mhm.
You need to do your due diligence and all of
Mm.
that. Those things can be really supportive. Finding even just having two or three people who are there for you and
Mhm.
connect in and you can talk to. Um, as well as just listening.
Mm.
We're so often in this tender space where it just feels like it's almost like Humpty Dumpty is the visual that I get. It's like Humpty Dumpty just shatters
Mhm.
and there are all of these pieces And that's what grief can feel like. There are
Mhm.
all of these pieces. But in that, we have the opportunity to look at and be like, I didn't realize I was carrying that,
Mm.
or I didn't realize I was carrying this person or that experience. This doesn't feel good to me anymore.
Mm.
And so when you're reshaping yourself and building yourself back up, there are a lot of things that often don't, you can't tolerate anymore.
They don't fit anymore.
They
Mm.
don't fit anymore. And that's okay because you're different. You're different.
Right. It's
Yeah.
it's an experience that has such a profound impact. And uh, I respect you so much for sharing this because it's hard. It's one of the hardest things that you go through in life. And as I said, I've dealt with it as well. And it is life shattering. And like you said, you have to rebuild again. It's like, from tarot, the tower moment.
Yeah.
Everything just falls apart and you have to get back to that strength to rebuild and start from a foundation that is healthy. But you have to allow yourself also that grief and that time to be compassionate with yourself and to not just instantly want to fix everything because you need that grief and that time to allow all those emotions, good and bad. And a lot of them are, of course, bad, but allow them to be and to come. And yeah, allow yourself also to be supported.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. And it's moving through for me. That's the way I've had to like really frame it and look at it is moving through. You're never going to move from it because
Mm.
it's part of you. It's allowing, when the anger or the rage comes up, like put on some music, do some heavy weightlifting. That was something that, when I feel that, it's like, all right, I'm going to pick up some heavy weights and
Right.
do some really intensive exercise. If you feel the tears are coming, like let them come,
Mm.
and allow them to come through you so they can be expressed. And, I think when we're excuse me, trying to distract ourselves or push things down, those are the things where it's just going to come up in different ways.
Right.
And we know that, right? And
Hmm.
it can feel really uncomfortable to feel those emotions,
Yeah.
but it's one moment at a time sometimes.
Yeah.
If that's all you can handle. And at times that's all I could handle was
Hmm.
this moment or
Yeah.
this, and then that just gets built upon.
And it's an energy that, like you said, can get stuck in your body, and it's about finding a way to remove it from your body, and that can be through, like you said, like walking or exercising. For me, yoga was very healing because I knew at that time I couldn't really put that much like actual like physical stress on my body. I couldn't do too much, so yoga was like this safe place for me to get that energy still moving without getting stuck in trauma, in PTSD, in the grief of it all. So it's really important to find that balance in, okay, what works for you? Because of course, dealing with grief is not a one size fits all. It's a very personal
Yes,
journey, basically.
it is. And it comes in waves. You
Yeah,
know, you might have one day where you feel good, and then the next day you feel like, wow.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or at times, even years later, when you think, "Oh, I'm over it," there can be a song or like a quote that you hear, or just a moment, or someone you see someone that looks like the person you've lost, or it can be just a simple moment when you think, okay, I've come overcome this, and then but it can be an easy moment or flicker of a moment, and you're back in there. And I think that's the moment when you need yourself the most, and be compassionate with yourself, and again allow that to be there, and then let the energy move
Mhm.
and not stay stuck in there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like the energetic clearing piece too,
Mm.
whether someone knows how to do that or not, even just doing, some guided meditations on that can be really helpful, or um really allowing that, because that was something that I found too, is that when I was in those really, really raw stage, um, I was a lot more susceptible
Mhm.
to, you know, other things coming in and um, yeah,
Yeah.
and needing more support with
Yeah.
help that stay clear. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a struggle to even just survive on a daily basis when you are going through that. So, and you always, I mean, that was the case for me. You always feel like when you have like a setback, you're like disappointed in yourself. When you feel terrible, you're like, oh my gosh, come on, get yourself out of it. But it doesn't work like that. So of course, now I feel a lot better and I can say that I have healed and I come from a place of groundedness and peace and calm. But that took 10 years. So
Yeah.
it's a long process, and the most important thing is allow yourself that process. If someone heals, like so-called heals in 5 years, doesn't mean you have to. It can take 10 years, 15 years, 50 years. Allow yourself that time. And like I said, it's always an up and down wave of emotion that comes and goes. But you're part of, you're the ocean, you're not the wave.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. It's moving with it and moving through it and not attaching yourself to needing to be at a certain place and a certain timeline. Absolutely.
Mm. And again, thank you for sharing because I know that was vulnerable and difficult. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's important and I'm no stranger to loss. This was actually like my sixth fairly big loss in like 2 years.
Mm.
But this was like
Yeah.
shattering. And I understand how hard it can be for people to know what to do, where to go, where to
Mhm.
find support. And we're really lacking a lot, I think, in our society in that
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of it is about like, like not even mental health is really a great focus anymore. You just get pills for something, or you get like a treatment. Or like, okay, this doesn't help. What about our soul, our energetic body, our feelings, emotions, our nervous system? It's all neglected.
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely.
Unfortunately. But I hope, like, even out this conversation, it can bring a shift and raise awareness because that's what we're here to do, right?
I absolutely hope so too. And that's why
Mm.
I'm speaking on it more. Yeah.
Mm. Well, my last question is always the same, and that is, when do you feel most divine?
Oh, when I'm in nature, truly, when I am, you know, connected to, I'm fortunate. I live in Maine and it's at least this time of year, it's beautiful here.
Mhm.
And we have the ocean and lakes and rivers and mountains and woods and I have so many flowers and really when I'm in that space, I feel both grounded in my body and connected to everything.
Mhm.
And that to me is just absolutely where feel my best.
Mhm. Oh, thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom and all your precious gifts with us.
Thank you. It was really an honor, and I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much.